beautiful smiling face is on the video at any point, then feel free to switch your video off. But we love seeing everyone's faces. So if you feel comfortable leaving your video on, as long as you don't unmute and talk, then you probably won't come up in the video anyway. Although the more the merrier. Chris, I don't know, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely. So welcome to our Learn with Google series. I haven't been here this year, I don't think, actually at all, but it's really nice to see lots of familiar faces and people coming back to join us, and people keep joining the calls. This is happening monthly, and if you are enjoying joining these sessions monthly, we would love for you to tell other people about it and send them along, because it is a great opportunity to connect and engage and ask questions like of Chris. Don't ask me questions. Ask Chris all the questions that you've ever wanted to know about anything live. Today we're going to talk about multimedia productions and creativity tools, which is, I think, Chris Betcher's jam. Like, the only thing that may make him more happy than getting to talk about this for an hour is potentially also incorporating Google Maps into the discussion, which he may do anyway. But before we do get into the session today, I will take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. So we are all coming together from different lands across Australia and New Zealand. And if you are not in either of those countries, extra big welcome to you. Not that I'm not happy to see all the Australian and New Zealanders. But so we have traditional custodians of all different lands. For me, I'm in Melbourne, so I'm on Wurundjeri land. I actually live just around the corner from one of the last settlements of Wurundjeri people in Melbourne, and it's really, really incredibly powerful to go and see the amazing job that they have done for centuries, maintaining this connection with the land and waterways on which we are so incredibly privileged to live. And I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging of the traditional custodians where I am, and I would really strongly encourage you to take a moment to reflect on the lands on which you are joining us from today, and do the same with paying your respects.
Excellent. If any of the Kiwis, Steve isn't here today, so if any of the Kiwis on the call would like to jump in and do this one, otherwise I'm prepared to give it a shot. Anyone? Any Kiwis want to jump in? Jeremy?
Jeremy, no, I think Jeremy put his hand up, a thumbs up.
Sure. Kia ora koutou. Kia ora whānau. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa, kia papatūnuku tēnā koe, kia whare tēnā koe, kia tūpuna tēnā koe, tēnā koutou katoa, tihei mauri ora.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, that's paying respect and acknowledgement to the Ngāiwi Māori people as the tangata whanua of Aotearoa, and committing to upholding the principles and partnership of the Treaty of Waitangi. Spoken on behalf of my Kiwi friends. For those that join us all the time, you'll recognise most of these faces. For those that don't, that's the Google for Education team based here in Australia. Actually, Jay is not on here. I have to add Jay to this slide. And we probably saw many of you last week at EduTech. Just give us a wave if you were at EduTech last week. A few people. Okay, I saw Nigel there. Yep. So if you were there, it was great. We had a teaching theatre running at EduTech, and we also had what we call the Learning Lab. And if you were able to join us for either of those, I'm very glad you could be there. We had a lot of fun. Hope you did too. Today we're going to talk about multimedia tools. As Kimberly said, this is kind of my thing. I spent most of my grown-up life in a classroom, originally as an art teacher, but then I kind of drifted into multimedia because I found a copy of PageMaker in a cupboard one day, and I got into desktop publishing. And from there, discovered Photoshop and discovered InDesign and discovered all these great tools, and ended up most of my life teaching multimedia, primarily using the Adobe tools, which is, I guess, what most multimedia people tend to use. But today we're going to talk about what you can do in the Google world in terms of multimedia. As many of you would know, especially if you've gone down the Chromebook path, Chromebooks are awesome computers for schools, but the obvious question everyone asks is, but what about multimedia? Can I still make video? Can I still do audio editing? So we're going to talk about that today. Everything I'm going to show you today, well, I'm working on a Chromebook, so everything I show you today will work in Chrome. Some of them are free tools. Some of them are not. They require a subscription. So, much the same as if you'd gone out and bought the Adobe suite, there's a cost involved, and that's true for some of these tools as well, but they are pretty awesome. So that's the background here. So let's start with Screencast for Chrome OS. So this is a new tool that was just released recently in Chromebooks. and it allows you to record your screen, voice, and camera directly. Now, there are lots of tools for doing screencasting. So many of us have a favorite with Screencastify. You've probably heard of that. You may have used that. It's a great tool. The neat thing about this one I'm showing you is it's built right into the Chromebook, and it does this cool thing where it does voice transcription, which I don't think any other tool that I've seen does it quite like this one does. So you get the transcript of the recording. You can then edit the video by editing the recording, which is pretty neat. It does only work on Chrome OS, and right now you can only record it using Chrome OS. That means a Chromebook or a flexed computer using Chrome OS Flex. So you can record it, and you also at this stage need a Chromebook to play it back as well, which I know for many people they're going, well, but my teachers don't have Chromebooks. So we are working on a player, I can tell you, that you'll be able to play it back on any device, but right now it's Chrome OS only at this point. And a little tip I learned during the week is if you record something and you try and share it, it may not be shared publicly. It might only be shared within your domain. If you want to change that, there's no setting in the share button to change that. So you've actually got to go into Drive and actually change the share setting within Drive itself. So you can do it. It's just, I thought it wasn't quite as obvious as I expected it to be, and it took me a while to figure it out. So I thought I'd share that tip with you. Let's just jump out and I'll give you a little example of what it looks like.
Chris, are you going to explain with that sharing in Drive? You have to share the whole folder, right? Like it actually saves multiple files. Correct, yeah. So when Chris makes it, you'll sort of see, but because there's a transcript and things that Chris will go into, there's kind of bits and pieces of files. I'm not sure that's a technical term. And so you share the top level folder that they're in, and it will become. Yeah,
exactly. I'm actually going to stop sharing because I've just realized I shared a tab, but of course Screencast is not a tab, it's an app in Chrome OS. So I'm going to just share my whole screen for a second because I think that'll be better. My entire screen, that one there, share that, and sharing my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see my whole screen there, and I'm going to get rid of this so it's not messy. So this button down the bottom here, this is Screencasts, and it looks like this. And I'll give you just a really quick demo of how it works. So you can see I've already recorded 4 here on the screen. If I click the new Screencast button up the top, what it does is it places an overlay across my screen. You can see my camera is working down the bottom there. The settings for cameras and microphones are kept under this little gear wheel right here, and you can turn on or off your microphone. If I had multiple audio sources, they'd all show up there, and I could pick which microphone I wanted to use. If I had multiple cameras, I could pick multiple cameras and so on. So that's all good. Multiple camera, front camera, all good. I want the whole screen. I want it to be video. So all those settings are the way I want. Well, they were the way I want until I press that silly wrong button. Okay, try that again. Okay, here we go. So when I click the screen, it'll give me a 3, 2, 1 countdown. It'll start recording my screen and listening to me. And here's the cool thing. Let's just say I want to show someone something here. I'll do a 20-second tutorial on how to access your shared drives, right? Okay, so we go click somewhere. We get 3, 2, 1. Hello, my name is Chris. I'm showing you today how to access your shared drives in Google Drives. Right now, we're in the priority section. If I click on the My Drive section, it takes me to a different part of Drive, like that. And if I click on Share Drives, it takes me to another different part of Drive, just like that. When I click the Stop Recording button at the bottom there, so it's just recorded everything I've said, and I've just realized I'm not sure whether the audio will come through this call, so we'll see. You can see it's processing. It's just uploaded that file into Drive. It'll take a few seconds now. It'll come up with a little thing that says processing. It was only short, so it shouldn't take long. And what it's doing in the background is it's taking the voice that I recorded, turning it into a transcript, and it will.
While that's processing, Chris, quick question from the chat from Donna. Sure. Can you move your little floating head bubble? Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually. You can move that floating head bubble. And in fact, Donna, it's got some smart stuff going on in the background that if you try and show something on a part of the screen where the head bubble would block that, it actually automatically moves out of the way. You don't even have to click and drag it. It just figures out that you're busy in that part of the screen and moves automatically for you. But yes, you can move it. You can also resize it. It can be big or small. So there you go. So that's done. If I open that up, you can see what it's done here is it's put the transcript of what I said over on the right-hand side, And again, I don't know if you'll hear this or not. Let me see.
My name is Chris. I'm showing you today
You
how
hear
to
that?
access your shared drives in Google Drives. Right now, we're in the priority section. If I click on the My Drive section.
So you can see that this is lit up in blue. If I want to jump to the other bit, if I click on that, it actually jumps me forward in the video. So this becomes a look like a playhead, if you like, and I can skip forward or backwards in different parts of the video. Now that I've showed you how that works, sorry, let me just show you the share button. So hit the share button there. This is how you share it. You can either keep it private or share it with others. And this setting here, anyone in Chrome Free to You, is based on the setting of the drive folder that it sits in, which is sitting inside your Google Drive in a folder called Screencasts. So if you want to change the sharing of it, you do it in Drive. Leslie says, how accurate is the transcript process? Well, there you go. My name is Chris. I'm showing you how. It looks pretty good to me. It's generally pretty good. If it's not, what you can do is click on the 3 dots up here and say edit text. So you can get, sometimes I do use a word that I tripped over or something and it didn't quite get it. You can go in and manually fix that really, really easily. And the other thing is, if there was a part of what I said here that I didn't want, what I can do is click on the 3 dots and say skip that section. And it will actually remove that in the entire section. If you look down here, you can see this sort of gray line along the bottom there. That's showing me that bit will be cut out of the video. So if you do stumble over something, you can always just stop, pause, pick it up again, and then just edit it out on the way out.
And on that note, Chris, one of the things that we were demoing this at EduTech last week, and one of the conversations that we were having around this was, Leslie, we found so far the transcript seems to be as good as like voice typing in docs, which is very good. But we all tend to have like our brains in education moving at like 1,000,000 miles an hour at all times, and often that comes out in the way that we talk as well. And as Chris just demonstrated, he only had 2 sections. He didn't say a lot, but there was only 2 sections of his transcript that he could actually edit. And one of the conversations that we were having last week was the importance of slowing down when you're doing something like a recording, and deliberately pausing in between sentences, and not just from the fact that will enable you to more accurately and more specifically edit the transcript and your recording afterwards, but it's actually a really key bit in terms of accessibility, because it enables learners who don't process information at the speed that goes through our minds to potentially engage with it more accurately as well. So just being really conscious of, I have these 12 things that I really want to say, and I'm going to go through it really quickly because I may not even like recording myself and my voice and my video, and so I'm a little bit nervous and I talk even more quickly, is a really common process that we see with teachers and screen recordings. And this, I actually think, in some ways, I think it's kind of nice that it's going to make that really obvious to us, and then subsequently make us conscious of slowing down a little bit.
I tend to talk faster when I'm doing these webinars because I'm trying to pack a lot in, and I know that you can always go back and hit the rewind button on things. So I'm probably talking faster than I normally would, but you get the idea. This is another example of a slightly longer thing, and with this one I made specific I made a point of actually stopping and pausing every so often. So every time I got to a logical break in the explanation of what I was trying to say, I just stopped and paused. And it naturally breaks it up for you like that. And I love the fact that, like, if I want to jump to 1 minute 27, I click that and it jumps to that part of the video. If I want to go back, I click on that and it jumps back to that part. So you navigate the video by navigating the transcription. Anyway, so that's Screencast. There is one feature coming to Screencast that I haven't, it's not available here for me, so I'm assuming it just hasn't been released yet. And that is, there will be up here where it says transcript, there will be a drop-down list here where you can actually convert this into other languages. So if you've done a screencast for someone and they speak Chinese or Portuguese or whatever, they can actually translate this on the fly and actually see it in their own language, which is going to be a very nice feature for accessibility. All right, that is Screencast. Any questions before we move on? Beautiful. Okay, so let me go back to trying to share my go back to just trying to share the tab, because I think that'll be better. So let me stop that and start the other way. Share my tab.
Nigel asked a question around the enable by admin. Nigel, you have to, it's to do with the version of the OS that you're running. So I think it's 104 onwards. So you'll actually need to update. So go into your settings on your Chromebook and update, go to your updates, Chrome OS section down the bottom, the very bottom bit, and update to the latest version of Chrome OS. And if you can't do that, it means that that function is disabled by your admin, but you will need to update that. The other thing is that currently the transcript is being solely generated using US English. So if your language on your device, which it is probably for most of us, is not set to US English, when you first launch the app, it will have trouble bringing in the magical, mystical, cloudy AI stuff that makes the transcript work. So you have to switch your language to US and then you can switch it back afterwards. But if you're having any of those issues, it's usually to do with your OS isn't to the most recent version. It has to be 104 onwards, I think. And you need to have your language at US to start with.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 103, but then I think it ended up being 104. But yes, you need to.
Yeah.
The device language needs to be set to US English.
Yep, thanks. We're up to 79%, so I'll see you in a minute.
Yep. Your user language can be set to other languages, but the device language needs to be set to English.
And you can switch it back once you've downloaded it, just to confirm as well.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Okay. Let's talk about WeVideo. So video editing. Video editing obviously is something, especially if you're in the Chromebook world, it's a thing you want to do. If you come from Windows, you've got lots of choices. If you're on the Mac, obviously, iMovie is very good. But if you come to the Chrome world, sometimes people think, well, I can't edit video, but you can. There's lots of great choices. And there is some new stuff coming that I can't talk about just at the moment. There's some new video editing stuff coming to Chrome that I'm going to be really excited to tell you about as soon as it drops. But right now, this is an amazing tool, WeVideo. Just thumbs up or show of hands if you've actually used WeVideo before. Okay, a couple of people, fantastic. So I'm just going to run through really quickly what it is and give you an example of how to use it. So it is what we call in the biz a non-linear video editor. And what that simply means is you can take pieces of video and chop them up and put them in whatever order you want. They don't have to be linear. Some really nice things about WeVideo is it comes with a built-in asset library. So yes, you can go and record things with your camera or other devices and import them in. You can absolutely do that. But there is a built-in asset library, which is super useful. So if you need a specific scene of something, or like a beach scene or a drone shot or something, rather than going to capture that yourself, it's probably already in the asset library. So kids can tap into that as they're making their videos. And obviously they can mix their own footage with the asset library video as well. It's got all the stuff you'd expect in a typical video editor. It's got the multiple timelines, transitions, titles, effects. You can do green screen on it. You can do screen recording as well. If you want to narrate something after you've recorded it. In other words, it does everything you'd expect. What I really like about it is it's collaborative. So it's one of the few tools on the market that I'm aware of that multiple users can actually edit together on the same timeline. That's kind of a big deal because you can't really do that with much else. And finally, it does export out a finished video. Sometimes what you see on the screen doesn't look that high res, and that's because you're working with like low res. What's the term for it? There's a term for it, proxies. But the final video actually is full resolution when it exports out. So let's jump in and have a little look. So I'm going to go to this tab over here, and I'm just going to type in WeVideo. And we'll have a little look-see. Feel free to ask any questions. And I'm just going to make my screen full screen so you can see it a bit bigger. And now it comes in a classroom mode and a classic mode. The classroom mode has a bunch of stuff that is obviously designed for schools. I'm just going to use classic for the moment, A, because I'm way more familiar with it, and B, because I can't show you the classroom features anyway because I don't have a class in here, right? So let's just look at the classic features for today. So when it comes in here, this is how it loads up. And I'm just going to hit the create button and say create new video. And you can see I can do a screen recording there if I want. I could create a GIF. I could record a podcast. So what a lot of people miss with WeVideo is that you could, if you wanted to, just make a recording that doesn't have video. It only has audio tracks. And then when you export that out, you've essentially got a podcast or an audio recorder. But let's do a video. So we'll go. You also have a full featured editor or a simplified editor. So simplify, and if you've used things like iMovie before, you can put them in those two different modes. Same thing here. And we'll go full featured editor. Mary, you just asked about Camtasia. Camtasia is more of a screen capture tool. So it's a video screen capture. You can edit with Camtasia, but its primary purpose is to create screencasts. This one's primary purpose is really to edit video in the same way that you would with, other editions. Donna, yes, this is a paid version. Yes, this is. So I'm just going to come in here. You can see if you've done video editing before, you probably recognize a lot of this looks really familiar. If you've used iMovie, if you've used Premiere Pro or Final Cut, really going to be a familiar interface here. So what I'm going to do is go into this thing where it says videos, and this is the video asset library I was telling you about. So you've got like tons of things in here you can pick from, and you can search them. So I'm just going to make a little video about animals. So I'll search at the top there the word animals, and it's going to pull up a whole bunch of videos from the stock library. So let's grab this squirrel. I'm going to drag that squirrel down and drop it on the video timeline there. Now that's 14 seconds long. That's way too long. So I'm just going to grab it by the corner and trim it down to something much shorter. I might just extend this timeline out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. So that's about 4 seconds worth. That's great. And let's get this this gazelle or whatever that is, a deer. So I'll do that. Maybe trim that one down a little bit as well. We'll get a few seconds of that, maybe 3 or 4 seconds of that. And maybe let's just get the lion. Okay, so we'll do that. Now that one's quite a long clip. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go over here to there, and you see I've got the split there. I've got a button that says it's got a picture scissors. I click that and then just press delete, and I'll throw away the bit I didn't want. So there's my 3 clips. Let's have a look and see how that looks. So I can go back to the beginning there, press the play button. So there's my squirrel, and then it's going to cut after 4 seconds. Boom, there's the deer, and 4 seconds later, we're going to go, boom, there's the lion, right? So really easy to edit. As you can see, it works the way you'd expect. Let's go and do something like, let's drop some transitions in here. So here's all the transitions. Transitions, you go from one piece of film to another. I like crossfades. They're kind of nice. I'm just going to drag that down, drop it in there. Let's take another one, drag that down and drop it in there like that. And now if I was to play that, let's go back to the squirrel. You can see it's going to go from the squirrel, and it's going to have a nice slow fade into the deer. So that looks pretty good to me. The next thing you'd probably want to do is you probably want to do things like add audio. So again, you can import your own audio in here if you want. So make your own audio, get it from elsewhere. I'm just going to go and grab something here. I don't know. This is just a demo, so it doesn't really matter what I pick. So I'll just grab that one. Again, it's way longer than I need it to be. And it actually fades in pretty slowly. So I'm just going to cheat a little bit there and just start it right at the beginning. We'll move that across. And again, we'll come to the end here. I don't really want it any longer than that. So I'll hit the split and delete the end bit. So now I've got some music. Maybe you can tell me if you can hear this when I play it. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And then the other thing you typically do in a video is you'd put some text in. So if I go to text here, I've got a whole bunch of things. Let's do this one here. I'm going to drag that one down there. And you can see right now that text says something like make an impact with text. I don't want it to say that. So to edit anything, to edit any individual clip in WeVideo, you simply double click it. So when I double click that one, it opens up into the editor for that clip. So we're going to say, I love animals in the wild, right? I don't know, just make something up, right? So we'll do that. You can change the colors of things, so you can have different colors and stuff. Now, when I say, okay, I'm done with that, save that change, it goes back, and you'll see what it happens now is when I play this. Right, and so that's how you're starting to create this. Feel free to ask questions or anything if you go along, if there's something specific you want to know. But what I'm hoping to show you is video editing is super possible on a web-based platform, and 2, like, it's pretty easy, right? I don't think there's anything terribly complicated about that. If you think about video editing as word processing with film, that's all it really is. You're simply taking things, moving them around, shortening them, lengthening them, the same way you would write with words. You're just doing the same thing with pieces of film. When you're done, if you need more tracks, there's a track button on the side here. You can add extra video and audio tracks. So if you want to layer up your audio or layer up the video to create sort of stacked effects, you can do that. And then once you're done with your video, you've got a finish button up in the top corner there. You hit the finish button, give it a name. I'll call this Animals 2 because I made an Animals 1 earlier as a practice. And we'll go set. And you can see when I export, I've got the option to go out to standard definition or to high definition. Oh, actually, I think I said it went to, I think if you've got, there's a different version of this where you can actually go to an even higher definition. So a higher version of high def. The other thing that's super cool about this is right now, if I hit this export button and export it, it's going to go out to the WeVideo platforms where it'll get stored. But you can also save it direct to Drive, save it direct to YouTube, save it direct to a couple of other different services. And right now it's not going to be public. So it will go to those services and be private to you. But if you want, flip that little switch there and now you can make that video public if you want. Okay. So let's assume that that's going to happen. I hit the export button and it goes off and does its thing. It'll be a couple of minutes doing that. I don't have to wait for it. It'll send me an email once it's done. And so that's how you do video editing on the web. And again, I'll just pause for any questions. By the way, there's a beta version of the WeVideo interface, which I'm currently using. So I know, I think Donna, you mentioned like it looked a little bit different to the standard interface. It's because I'm using the beta version of the new UI.
Chris, just a couple of thoughts from the non-video editor in the group. One of the things that I think is really powerful about the WeVideo platform, as opposed to iMovie, if I'm being honest, I don't really know what iMovie does or what's that other thing that people use. But is like the concept of having kids go off and collect different bits of footage from different places and putting it into that shared space together and being able to bring in, because I know when I was teaching, I was an English teacher and we would make videos of things, but like 3/4 of the lesson would just be taken with the kids filming exactly the same bit of content and all bringing it into their timelines. So that concept of being able to have those shared spaces, that's probably not what they're called, but also have collaborative video editing. So having a group of kids, not necessarily, especially in this new wonderful world we live in where people are in isolation or not coming to school and stuff like that, actually being able to collaboratively build a MIDI video, regardless of where you are, I think is pretty cool. And then my final thought around, and this is a lot of thoughts for someone who doesn't really do video, is around, if you haven't seen it yet, with our new Classroom add-ons, WeVideo is actually in the first release of the add-ons in Classroom. And Chris, you were saying that like if you do it through Classroom, like none of the rendering thingy-mabobs, like kids just make it and then the teachers just see it magically. Is that how it works?
It is, and I'm actually going to talk about that in just a bit when we get to the Classroom add-on stuff, because I think this is one of the tools that integrates directly with the Classroom add-on. And this is called this is just the media collection. So this is where when you do import something in, this is where you do it. You just click this blue button up here. That's the import button. And what's neat about this is not only can you drag your media directly off here, straight off the camera, the SD card on the camera, but you've also got import from social sites down here, and Google Drive is one of them. So that's one of the things, like I think Kimberly was alluding to there, is you could have a classroom set up with a single Drive folder shared with the entire class, and all the kids are putting all of their collections of videos they're shooting into that one folder, so everybody has access to everybody's video. And so that really speeds up the process. And like you said, you don't get every kid going and collecting the exact same piece of footage. They can all get different things and then share from each other. It is collaborative. That does have a timeline that multiple people can work together. Kind of difficult to demonstrate that here, but it is a feature that you can use. So there you go. That, my friends, is WeVideo, one of my favorite tools. Let's get back over here. So that's video. Let's talk about audio. What if you wanted to do audio recording? If you're a music teacher, for example, you do a lot of this stuff. But even as a non-music teacher, when I was teaching, I would often get my kids to sort of produce, a jingle or record their voice or do a podcast or, create a radio episode or something. There's lots of uses for audio recording inside a classroom. And if you want to really dig into audio recording, think of this like some of you might have used GarageBand before, which is great program on on the Apple platform. This is like GarageBand for the web, and it's collaborative. So you can have multiple people collaborating together on music together. I did a demonstration for the BET conference in London a few years ago with a guy. He was in London, I was in Sydney, and we were collaborating, writing a song together in real time. So it's pretty awesome that you can do that. It has, again, for the nerds, music nerds, it has loops-based editing, MIDI-based editing. You can plug in a microphone. You can plug in your guitar. If you've got a keyboard and the right cable, you can plug that in and play directly into it. And there's lots of. So let me give you a look at that. So I'm going to flip over here and type in. Sorry, first of all, I will share this tab. Try that again, Christopher. Okay, share this tab instead. Okay, great. So soundtrap.com. Soundtrap started, by the way, as a small company in Sweden, and they have since been acquired by Soundtrap. So not by Spotify. So Spotify now owns Soundtrap, and of course, there's a real nice synergy there with the podcasting aspect of it. You can actually create podcasts directly in here and have them go straight to the Spotify podcast library. Lots of cool things. I'm going to create a new, enter the studio over here by clicking Enter Studio. It opens up like so. Again, I'll make it full screen so we have more room to work on. I don't need to save those changes. And the first thing it asks you, do you want to create music or a podcast? Podcasting is recording your voice. I'm just going to show you the music side of it because it's kind of fun. So we go in here and light and dark mode. Oh, so that's new. So you come in here and you're faced with some options of how you get sound in here. You can either browse the loops collection, which I'm about to show you, or if you wanted to make your own drum beat, there's actually a patterns beat maker in here where you can come in here and say, okay, I want a kick drum. Let's say, sorry, get rid of this thing. Well, it's trying to be helpful and it's teaching me things. It should have asked me whether I already know them. Right, okay. So you can come in here and say, I want, why is this not doing its thing? Okay, I don't know why that's not letting me do things. So I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to go to the loops collection, which is where I normally start. So this is a loops collection on the side here. So I'm going to, you can see if I click here on beats, for example, there's a whole bunch of beats that show up on the side here. And there are literally thousands of them. The hardest part is picking one. I did this project with some year one students a while back where they had to write some music for a production they were making. And my instruction to them was literally go to the loops thing, drag one out, and then add a second one. If you like it, keep the second one. If you don't, throw it away and get a different one, and keep doing that until you find something you like. And it worked amazingly. So if you want to preview something, you just click the little play button. All right, can you hear that? Yep. So there's a drum beat. I've listed a couple of favorites last night when I was playing with this. I thought rather than waste time, I've just picked a couple I like. So here's one called Beat Quick Feet, and I'm going to take it and drag it out and just drop it up on the timeline just like that. Might not put it there. I might put it over on bar 1. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make it go for 4 bars like that. Okay, let's try that again. So we'll get the beat. We'll drag it over there like that. That's how it looks. Right, so there's the beat, right? I've simply dragged it out. Here's a bass line that I found that I like. I'm going to take the bass line, drag that out as well. We'll put that there. And it drags out. Can you hear that? Right. And making the music is as simple as that. Now, you'll get to a point where maybe you want to actually play something. So, just pause this for a second and rewind it. And let's just say now I want to add a new track. And the new track I want to add is a piano or a keyboard. So let's click on that. And look, up comes a keyboard. And I can just get rid of this loops thing for a second. The letters and numbers that you can see on the keyboard there map to the letters on my keyboard. Right, so as I'm playing on my actual computer keyboard, it's mapping to this, this keyboard. Now, I will preface this by saying that when you're trying to do this while you're also trying to screencast this and push it out to a Meet call, it does have a little bit of lag, so I'm going to struggle with doing this. So rather than try and do that, I'm going to show you one I made earlier. So let me exit this studio No, I don't need to save that. I'm going to show you another one I made earlier as an example. And it's this one I called Funky Monkey. And it's just loading up. And you see it's much like the one I just showed you, except what I've done is I've added this in. So this purple one here, these little markers here are where I've played the keyboard. It's just a really simple, dumb little melody, right? But each one of these markers is a note, and it maps to the keyboard. And the nice thing about it is if I don't want that note there, I can pick it up and move it to a new location. So if I'm a non-keyboard player, which I am, right, I can literally play something, and then just if there's a wrong note or something, or a badly chosen note, I can always go back later and simply move it to a new location, right? So really easy. When you play that back, now that instrument you're hearing there, when I recorded it was a piano, but if you go into the instrument thing here, and you can say, I don't want an instrument, I want it to be a string ensemble. So I'm actually using pizzicato violin strings there instead. And because I wanted that little echoey sound at the end, you can come in here to the effects and choose from multiple effects.
We're not seeing what you're seeing, Chris, I don't think.
Oh, you can't see. Oh, it's popped up in a thing. Yeah, okay. Oh, it's because I'm not shooting. Oh, thank you.
All right, it's only been a minute. So
oh, there you go. Sorry, there you go. How's that? You can see that now. Yeah? Right. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize that wasn't going into the stream. Sorry, what I was going to show you was that this keyboard that I'm using here, I can actually map the keyboard to different instruments. So I might like the pattern that was played, but I don't like the fact that it was a piano. I might want to replace it with a violin or replace it with a steel drum or something else. It'll still play the same notes, but with a different instrument. That's called MIDI. So I've mapped it here to a pizzicato string ensemble. And then what I was trying to show you was if you click this button, it will bring up, there you go. So you can see this is the effects. I've got a little bit of delay or echo on there. And this blows my mind. When you click on the add effect thing, these are all the effects that you can layer in over the top of the sound you're recording. So you might want to, say you're doing a podcast and you want to sound like you're in a really big room. You can add reverb to that. You can make the sound what they call dry or wet. So you got a lot of control over the way this works. And again, blows my mind. This is happening in a browser, right? I have no software installed on this Chromebook. This is just in the web. Kind of amazing what you can do in the web. So there you go. That is Soundtrap. It's amazing in what it does. If you have a need for this kind of thing, there is a share button up the top there. I can click that share button and obviously type in someone's name or email address there, and it will invite them to collaborate with me. And now we're working together on the same song. Working together on the same song, what it really means is, like, if I make some changes, as soon as I save those changes, the other person sees them. And if they make some changes and save, then I'll see them. We're not literally like you're in a Google Doc sort of typing the same words together. That would get really messy in this with music, but it is collaborative. I'll just pause if there's any questions there. I'm just mindful of time. No? All good. Okay, fantastic. Well, let's go back to slides. Are here somewhere. I've lost my slides. Where are they? I have too many windows open. There we go. There's the slides. Share to that tab instead. Okay, so that was Soundtrap. Fantastic. The third thing I want to talk to you about is Photoshop, as in, yes, Adobe Photoshop. So a lot of the criticism of being on a cloud platform or in Chromebooks or whatever has been, yes, but I need Photoshop. I need these other tools because they're the industry standard. And there's some truth to that. I think it's equally true that we don't need to necessarily kids, especially younger kids, to be teaching them industry standard software. Most of the time, the industry will change its mind about what the standard is by the time these kids graduate. So I don't totally buy that argument, but Photoshop definitely is something that is good to know. So I'm going to show you how you can actually run Photoshop, the actual Photoshop, inside your browser. Now, this is an Adobe product. It's not the full version, desktop version of Photoshop, right? It's Adobe's cut down version for the web. if you've been following carefully on this, like I have for the last year or so, this has just improved and improved and improved and will continue to improve. So it doesn't have everything Big Photoshop's got, but it's got a lot of it, and we'll probably get more of it as time goes on. So let's switch over, close some of these tabs I don't need. Yeah, I don't need that one, don't need that one. I don't need that one because they're just taking up memory. Okay, so we'll go here. Right, so the way you get it, I know you can't see my address bar, but I'm just typing in photoshop.adobe.com. And it is going to launch to this page right here. Make it big for you. Okay, so this is Photoshop on the web. You can see it's got some things that I've been playing with before. There's previous bits of work I've just been playing with. All right, let's make something new. I'm going to click on the Start Something New button right here, and it's going to load up. If you tried this previously, it took a long time to load previously. Now it's much, much faster. The Adobe engineers are really making this much better. So let's just go with the default Photoshop size there. You can see I can do print size, screen size, film and video size, so lots of different options. But let's just go with a standard size. We'll go create. This is going to load up. And here we go. So Photoshop on the web. So we got here, let's do something real quickly. I'm going to go into the place button over here, and I have got some photos that I've pre-selected. So the first one, I'm just going to get this picture of this guy, right? So here's this fella here, right? And I want to get rid of the background. So I want to cut him out of the background. There's a couple of ways I can do it. The first way is to actually just select him and then delete everything else. And I don't have to do it manually. There's actually a really nice tool up here where I can click on that and say, select the subject. When I select the subject, it uses Adobe's artificial intelligence, I think they call it Sensei. It uses a Sensei technology to do a really good job, and you can probably see the little marching ants around that guy there. Right, so what I want to do is I'm just going to invert that selection. So now I've selected the background, press delete, and so now I've cut out the background from that guy, right? Nice and easy, nice and simple. It's done the work for me. So let's deselect that, and let's place something else in here. I'm going to go in here and place, I've got a nice background here. I'm going to put this guy in the background of some star trails that I found, because I really like this. So there's the star trails. They're pretty good. Let's lock that in with the little checkbox there. But of course, I need the guy in front, and you can see over here on this side here, this is telling me that the star trails layer is on top of the man. So I need to switch that around by just dragging it like that. So now I've got him in front. Okay, so that looks pretty good so far. And then just because we can, let's also place one other thing in here. So I'm going to go and grab one final piece here, and that is the dog. And so I'm going to bring in here the dog. And so the dog's there, but obviously the white background's pretty distracting. So again, let's go up to here, and I'm going to use the other technique now. Instead of selecting the subject like I did before, I'm going to say remove the background. Sensei will work on that. It'll just figure out where the dog is, remove the background, and boom, done. So it removes the background from that dog. And if you look carefully up here, you can see, because I did it a different way, again, if you're a Photoshop user, you'll know what this means. If you're not, well, you probably don't know what you're looking at here. That's okay. It's created a mask. So it's actually done it the correct way. It's left the dog alone, and it's created a mask around the dog. So it's hiding the background basically. So there you go. So I can do that. Let's just shift a couple of things around here. Maybe move the dog over here. Because I have a weird sense of humor, this is like a space dog, right? So I'm gonna make the dog green because it's like a space dog. So what I'll do is I'll select the dog up here. Let's go up to the settings here, and let's do a hue and saturation setting just on the dog, right? So that's fine. I'm gonna colorize the dog, and then maybe change the hue of the dog to green, like so, and maybe saturate it a little bit more just to bring up the color. Now we have a green space dog, right? My point is that you can do genuine graphic design stuff using the web version of Photoshop, right? It is not a limited version that, you know, is sort of useless. It does a lot of the stuff you want. It doesn't do everything, but it does a lot.
Hey,
and the
Chris,
neat thing about it, yeah.
There was a question around saying that apparently this web version wasn't available to EDU customers.
That's not my understanding of it, but I could be proven wrong.
Josh Strauss asked, so I assume that Josh knows everything. So Jennifer and Josh and whoever else is asking. So yes, like I said in the beginning, some of these tools I'm showing you are not free tools.
This one assumes that you actually have a license for Creative Cloud. So as a Creative Cloud user, you should have access to this, right? But you do need to be a Creative Cloud subscriber. So yes, not a free tool. I hope I'm not misleading anyone there. Like, it is something that you have access to if you're already using the Adobe Suite. That makes sense? Check it out, Josh, because I know, and if you're having trouble, reach out to me and let me know, because I know the folk at Adobe as well, and we can get to the bottom of it, and I can find out exactly what the story is. But I thought it was available to you because I know other teachers that are using it. So, yeah, let me know. Last thing I'm going to do in this is just crop this, because I got a little bit of stuff missing on the top and bottom. So I'm just going to hit the crop button like so. That's nice. And then we go. You know, the thing I like about this, as someone who's taught Photoshop a lot over the years, Photoshop is very modal. And by that, I mean, it depends which tool you're using at the time as to how it's going to behave. And it's really hard to teach that modality to kids because it's confusing. What I like about the web version of Photoshop is I went into the crop mode, and now I'm in crop mode, and it doesn't come out of crop mode until I click this done button in the top corner here. So I can make all my choices here. And then when I finally click done, then it sort of hands me back over into the main interface. It's a lot less confusing to teach kids when you have it like that, in my opinion anyway. And if I was still in the classroom teaching multimedia, I would actually start, especially my younger kids, like primary school and early high school, I would start them on this version because I think it's easier to teach the principles using the web version than it is to teach full Photoshop, which I've always said to students is like flying a jumbo jet. It's that there is so many controls in there. It can be so confusing that if you can simplify it a bit, it actually makes it easier to learn. That's what I think this is. All right. If there's no questions, I shall move on, except to point out one last thing, and that is, let's say you make something in here and then you go, well, I've hit the wall here. I've done as much as I can get in the web version, and I want to continue doing something, but I need the full version of Photoshop. You can, there's a button up here which you can press, and you can actually carry this across over into big Photoshop, if you like, and you can carry on your work there. So the file formats are all 100% compatible with, desktop Photoshop. You can work across both. Students could start here and then, hit the wall and then go off to the lab or at home or wherever they want to finish their work and work on it on the full version there if they needed to. All right. Let's go back to here. And the last couple of things we're going to talk about is Creative Cloud. Sorry, I'll share this tab instead. Is for those who aren't digital media nerds and you're looking for something simpler, then there's Adobe Creative Cloud Express. And I know, I think Leslie just pointed out there, Canva. Canva, also amazing tool. I was debating whether I show you Canva or Creative Cloud. They both do very similar things. So Creative Cloud Express, free for schools. Canva is also free for schools. They do similar things in terms of if you want to create posters, flyers, social posts, that kind of thing. There's tons of templates. So Creative Cloud Express and Canva take a slightly different approach to creating media, and that is with something like Photoshop, you start from scratch most of the time. You build it up, and you kind of, the skill is actually sort of making the media. With Creative Cloud Express and Canva, they give you a ton of templates that you pick something you kind of is close to what you think you might like, and then you basically modify it. So you change the words, you might change the color scheme, you might move a few things around, but basically the skeleton of what you're creating was created for you in a template. So that's the kind of the key difference. As an ex-multimedia teacher, I obviously love things like Photoshop because that's kind of what you do. But if I was an English teacher or a science teacher or something where the point wasn't to learn multimedia, the point was to produce a poster, then I'd be looking at something like Creative Cloud Express, because what you're doing is you're taking away the need to learn the tool because it's so easy, and kids are focusing on the outcome rather than all these skills, which obviously can take a long time to learn with a complicated tool. So I don't think I'm running out of time to do a demo on that, so I won't demo that, but I just want to point it out to you that it does exist, and you can have a play with it. It's just
people talking about like a difference between Canva and Creative Cloud Express, and from my point of view, because I was not a multimedia teacher, I was an English and humanities and IT teacher, so they didn't need to have the skills as such for it. I would have defaulted to Canva every day of the week particularly as a workspace school over Creative Cloud, because it is very Google focused. Like Canva is actually run through Google Workspace. Their entire business runs through Workspace. And so they build a heap of classroom templates, slides, templates that are all very workspace centric, and Adobe does not. Adobe does some good things, but I think that when we are talking about workspace schools, that Canva sort of has almost like its default is thinking about a workspace first mentality. And that's really, really powerful, because that, you can do classroom banners, like they make them the perfect size in Canva, and all those things that teachers want to be able to do, I think just by default in Canva.
Yeah, just between you and I, and whoever's watching this recording, I think that the success of Canva has not gone unnoticed by Adobe, and I think they're very much aware that, well, Express could be a real competitor to Canva if they just beef it up a bit, which is what they're currently doing. But it is a nice tool. If you haven't checked it out, do have a look at it.
Australian woman started Canva.
That is true. Melissa? Mel.
She's like one of the richest women in the world now.
Yeah,
and she's like 30 something. Yeah.
There is a whole bunch of things in here, by the way, if you want to resize videos or merge things or change the speed of a clip. There's a bunch of these sort of what they call quick actions now, that are little quick tools that you can just go and do a very specific thing to a piece of media. So again, I'm not going to dwell on it. I just thought I'd point it out so it's there. You can check it out if you want to or not. It's up to you. So let's go back to our slides on this tab over here. And let's wrap up a couple of things here. So what's new? We always like to talk about what's been new in Google in the last little while. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention in the 7 minutes we've got. Classroom add-ons. Classroom add-ons. I'm just going to open up Classroom and flip over to there. So those of you who use Google Classroom may have noticed in the last week this has turned up. So if I go into my demonstration class here, for example, and I start to create some work for a student, and I go create an assignment, right? You've got this thing now called add-ons, and I've added some in here. Now, let me be really clear about this. You will only see the add-ons that your administrator has allowed for you, right? So you can't go and put them in yourself. It has to be done at the admin level. An administrator should only turn an add-on on if it's something that the school has access to. So for example, Google Arts and Culture is an add-on. It's free. So you can happily put that one in there, right? Because everyone gets access to that. But if you want to put in something like WeVideo, for example, that's a subscription service. Adobe Express isn't a subscription service. So it would be kind of not sensible to turn add-ons on unless you actually have the service, right? So just bear that in mind. But once you do that, so let's say I did want to create a video project for my students. I could come in here and call it, video task, and I could write my description and blah, blah, blah. And then I want them to do it as a WeVideo project. I can actually attach that now. And you notice this is opening up inside Classroom. It hasn't thrown me to another tab somewhere on the internet. And now I give the specific, let's call this animals video, right? And I write my description, blah, blah, blah. I have to write something there, da, 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 da. Right, I hit create. And what it does is it creates this WeVideo task right there, almost as though I'd attach the Google Doc to it, right? I've just attached a WeVideo file. And when the student comes in and opens that, it launches them straight into the WeVideo editor. They can make their edits, do whatever they got to do. When they submit that assignment back to the teacher, and this is what Kimberly was alluding to earlier, is you know how when I showed you that I hit that render button at the end and I had to sort of save out the video in its final format? If you do this through Classroom, you don't even have to do that. It will render for you in the background. So what the teacher sees is the finished video. So that's kind of a nice feature that it does that. But there's lots of things in here, Word Wall, Edpuzzle, things you'd recognize, Kahoot, and so on. So you can push these tools out now through this add-ons collection here. So that's the add-ons, and I think it backs on really nicely to some of the multimedia tools I just showed you, because many of them are the add-ons as well. You might, if you're eagle-eyed, you might notice there's things hiding down here that says practice sets. This is a new thing that's coming to Classroom very soon. It's currently in beta. I know there is a teacher I can identify on this call right now who's part of the beta program. Maybe I won't name names, but we are testing it with Australian schools this week. and you can expect to see that appearing very soon. We actually tested it with New Zealand schools last week, so we've got lots of great feedback on what we need to do with it. So that is the add-ons feature inside Classroom. A couple of other things: color categorizations. Can't say that. Color categorizations in Calendar. She sells, right? What this is in Google Calendar now. Again, let's try and open it up. Calendar. We'll do that. Share that tab instead. So when you go into Google Calendar now, you can see here's a calendar of mine. If I create something here, so I'll call this task, and I can go down here and I can actually change the color of that. Now, you've always been able to do this. You've always been able to change the color of an item in your calendar. So I've changed that to green, right? So normally it should be whatever color, purple. I think purple is my calendar color. In fact, I'm going to make this more obvious, because if I change it to yellow, you'll see the difference. You can see the little purple stripe down the side there. That's telling me that purple is actually the real calendar color, but I've made it yellow. I've overridden it. Let's just save that. And where you see this turn up is it's got this tool down the side here that I think we've talked about in previous episodes, where it's called Time Insights. And you can go to Time Insights and it will open up this page on the side here, and it will tell you how you're spending your time on the calendar. I don't know why that's taking so long. Maybe because this is not my usual calendar. Anyway, if it loads, it loads. What it does, you can actually color code things on your calendar, and then it will give you a time breakdown of those things based on color. So for example, you might be working on 3 projects. So you have a project that you color code with yellow, another one you color code blue, another one you color code red. It will actually then tell you how much time you're spending on projects based on the color coding in those projects. So previously you could do it based on who you're spending time with and sort of how long you're spending in meetings. But this gives you the extra dimension now to be able to see types of events in your calendar and actually break down the time insights by that. I don't know why that's not loading for me, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Let's go back over here to here. A couple of things that are coming. It's been released this week. It's not showing in all of my Google accounts, so it may not be visible to you just yet, but it will in the next week or so, is social links in Google Sites. So if you want to create a Google site and put in like your Twitter and your Facebook and your LinkedIn buttons there's now a nice little built-in tool in Sites that does that for you. It creates the links for you. Well, I mean, you got to put the links in, but it'll create the buttons for you. You can choose whether you want a solid button or an outlined button, or change the color of the button. It looks really nice, very easy to use. You'll see that appearing in the next week or so if you haven't got it already. Improved background effects in Meet. I don't know if you can see me here in the picture, but like this is my actual room, right? But Kimberly, maybe you could show this demo. Can you just wave your arms around a little bit, just like this?
And my replaced background, which is my Zen garden.
Your Zen garden. The improvement here is you've always been able to, for a long time, you've been able to have those background effects in Meet. What we've done better is we've done better at cutting you out. So you get a lot less, it's called fringing. You get a lot less fringing around the edges now. If you get your hand and sort of move it really quickly, you can kind of confuse it, and maybe it'll see the gaps through your fingers, that kind of thing. But for the most part now, you get much better outlining in Google Meet.
It's very impressive. My background is very, very messy and busy. So, and it does a great job working out where I am.
I realize we're at time, so I'm going to wrap it up with 2 last things, and that is the integrated view for Gmail. We did talk about it before. We have shown it before. That's where you get the mail and the chat and the spaces and the Meet calls all now integrated inside Gmail. It's not new, but it's now everyone gets it. So until I think this week, people could opt out of it. So you might have not had it previously. You might have chosen not to have it. Now everyone gets it, whether you like it or not, basically. And then finally, the improved Microsoft Office alerts. If you bring a Microsoft Office document into Google Drive, generally speaking, the translation of that Office file into Google format is pretty good. I know it wasn't always great, but it is pretty good now. If you haven't tried it lately, you should. What we're doing now is if there is anything that doesn't look like it's going to translate across nicely, it will actually give you a little warning at the top there. So at the top of the page where you get the little docx label, so if you bring a Word file into Drive and don't convert it, and you get the little docx label at the top, it will actually have like a little warning exclamation point on it to tell you that there was something about that that didn't translate nicely. And if you click on it, it'll tell you what that was, just to keep you informed. And then last thing was the practice sets beta, which I've mentioned before. I showed you the practice sets. We'll talk about that when it actually releases, but there's a lot of exciting stuff about the practice sets beta coming very soon. I'll hand back to you, Kimberly.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. I feel like my contribution was really invaluable to this whole webinar. So thanks, Chris, for being in your element and sharing all of that. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Please do share the link to bit.ly/LWG. I don't know what it is. I'll find it. We have a few left for the year 4 because we have 4 months left. Is that true? We have 4 months left.
4 months, yeah.
Oh, Santa's coming soon. So next month we are going to be talking about research and originality and some of our tools that are in that space, and then you can see the rest of them for yourself. Please share with others. And Chris has made a wonderful resource that you can see the link to on the screen as well around accessing all of the past webinars, which I think has got like 2 years worth or more, Chris.
It has. There's a ton of resources there. So everything we've recorded over the last 2 years basically is on that. I won't say a site. It's technically not a site. It's a Google slide deck that I've made look like a site, but it is what it is. We're trying to find a new home for it. But if you want a certificate that Chris has also made look very pretty, you can fill that in. It is an honor system, so if you say that you spent 25 hours in this webinar, like, we're not going to check it, but I mean, it's questionable that you could spend 25 hours in a webinar, I'd say, but it will automatically create a certificate for you and email it to you if you need it for your professional learning records. And then finally, if you are in one of our big departments of education and have specific questions around access to things in your domains, these are the email addresses to reach out to. Oh, and someone wants to join our call now. Very enthusiastic. So that's it. Please reach out at any point if there's anything that we can be of assistance with. We are starting our 2023 planning, which is like genuinely terrifying. So if you have any ideas, feedback, like that you think would be useful that for you in your context and the teachers and students that you work with that we could do differently, we would very much love to hear it, because we don't want to do what we've always done to get what we've always got. We are really open to new ideas. And thanks very much for joining us. As always, your time is incredibly valuable and we appreciate that you have chosen to spend some of it with us. Good luck for the rest. Is it holidays yet? Surely it's holidays, right? No, okay. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe and warm. No worries. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kimberly. If you want to stop the recording, well, I know about Kimberly. I'm happy to hang around for a few minutes if anyone has more questions.